This is a showbizradio.net review of The Wild Party, performed by Dominion Stage in Arlington, Virginia. Mike and I saw the performance opening night, Friday, January the 11th, 2008. This is Laura.
And this is Mike. The Wild Party is advertised as gin, skin, sin, and fun. Well, they had the gin, skin, and sin, but the people in this show were not having fun.
I came away feeling very sad and kind of dirty after watching some of the scenes and actions that went on stage. It was sort of a depressing show with a lot of flair and a lot of color.
The Wild Party is a musical based on the classic poem by Joseph Moncure March. The show includes music and lyrics by Michael John LaChiusa. Manhattan decadence in the 1920s provides the backdrop for this tough musical fable. Queenie, a vaudeville querine, hosts the blowout of the title with her vicious lover, a black-faced minstrel. The guests are a vivid collection of the unruly and the undone, including Queenie's conniving rival, a cocaine-sniffing bisexual playboy, a washed-up boxer, a black brother act, a diva of indeterminable age and infinite life experience, the fresh-off-the-farm ingenue whose naivete quickly evaporates, a lesbian actress and her comatose girlfriend, and the bargain basement Valentino who catches Queenie's roving eye. The jazz and gin-soaked party rages to a mounting sense of threat as artifice and illusion are stripped away. When midnight debauchery leads them to tragedy at dawn, the high-flying characters land with a sobering thud, reminding us that no party lasts forever.
The show opens with Queenie, played by Elizabeth Yates, and Burrs, played by Patrick McMahon, in their New York City apartment. They're bored and just unsettled with life and decide to have a big blowout party to try to get them out of their doldrums.
Queenie and Burr's relationship was definitely on the rocks, and they really thought this superficial wild party they could throw would help fix them up. So you weren't quite sure what was going to happen, except it was going to be a wild party. As the different guests started arriving for the party, you realized that anything could happen, and everything did happen.
Queenie, the hostess of the evening, was played by Elizabeth Yates. The entire evening I just kind of felt like she was playing it flat, that not a lot of emotion except a heck of a lot of cynicism and just not happy about life and the situation and looking in, I guess, all the wrong places to try to find happiness and fulfillment.
Yeah, I don't think she quite had the right stage presence for Queenie. She was almost too depressed, I guess, and too out of it, even though she was trying to play the act of playing a fun girl and a playgirl at the wild party. But she really, her heart wasn't in it. I think Yates did get that across, of the depression and just the way Queenie was feeling. I think that worked out pretty well. Queenie's lover, Burrs, was played by Patrick McMahon. He had a pretty strong presence. He was so jealous it was just staining all over him, but at the same time he didn't mind keeping an eye on her while he was flirting with the other people at the party. He loved playing host to all his friends and just loved being the center of the party, even if he wasn't really the action of the party.
Yeah, just like Queenie, Burrs was trying to get out of his feelings of anger and jealousy, and he really was a two-timer because he wanted Queenie all to himself, but at the same time he was willing to go other places for fulfillment. And just like the rest of the cast, he was just sad and depressing.
The other primary couple on the show was Kate and Black. Kate, played by Rochelle Ricky Howie, and Black, played by James Finley. They also had a simple love-hate relationship in that they quote, loved each other, in that they both gave each other pleasure, and they liked what the other person was. But as for a real relationship, there really wasn't one. And I think the contempt they felt for each other that grew throughout the evening was pretty well performed by both of them.
Yeah, Kate, Rochelle Ricky Howie, I thought did a good job. She has a good, strong voice. She had a great presence on stage and just kind of took control of the room. I really liked her. I thought it was interesting. One of the quotes when she and Black came into the room and they were talking, she made the comment, he could do what he wanted, but he was going to leave with her. And interesting plot point.
Black was a debonair. I didn't see him quite. He was out of place, actually, at the party. He didn't quite know what the rules were, and the rules were there were no rules at the party. and he didn't quite get that. And he had a really good scene with Queenie out on the balcony of the apartment overlooking the city. They had a nice little conversation, and it came out that neither of them had actually drunk any of the gin. And I liked that scene a lot. And it was very tender, especially contrasting that with what was happening in the apartment behind them.
Yes, I would have liked to have known more about Black, played by James Finley. He was kind of one-dimensional, and I wish there had been some more time for the two of them to get to know each other and develop the character a little bit better, but he too had a very nice voice.
The rest of the group was very well cast. They were pretty much on stage almost the entire show once they came on stage for the Wild Party itself. And that was good. You didn't get to know any of them really well except through their songs and by watching them when they were in the background of someone else's scene. But I think they all worked together very well. Very close cast, obviously, for some of these scenes. Some things that weren't obvious by watching the show, for example, Phil and Oscar, I did not realize were brothers. So little things like that did escape me. But I think everybody did a good job with this material.
Yes, one person that I thought was funny, besides kind of the main characters, was Sally, played by Erin Branigan. She was hysterical because she was just so out of it the entire time, just kind of wandering around the stage. I don't know why I found that so funny, but I did.
She had one solo, After Midnight Dies, and that was a really good song. I liked that spotlight they were able to put on her for that.
The set for the Wild Party I thought was good. Scenic design and painting design was done by Helen McCarthy, and it really did fit well. You really were looking at the people and not the set itself. It was there to kind of accentuate the songs and dancing and things that were going on.
The set was made up of multi-level platforms, giving you lots of different areas to see different action happening. The lighting worked well. Lighting was designed by Jeffrey Scott Auerbach. There were a few times where it was a bit hard to see what was happening, which at points you really don't want to see what's happening. But there were some times when I really couldn't see the expression on the people's faces because it was so dark on stage.
The music directors were John Michael de Havilland and William D. Parker, who was also the show's director. One thing I didn't like was for a lot of the show, I couldn't understand what people were saying. It was just really loud and the sound kind of went everywhere. So the only time I could hear people clearly was like on a solo or even the duet sometimes. I couldn't hear what they were saying. So it was a little hard to get into the show because I couldn't hear what was going on.
Yes, there were microphone problems throughout the show. Characters would drop in and out. There was a lot of rustling because the costumes were rubbing against the microphone, I assume. That'll get worked out. This was the opening night, but it was a distraction during this performance.
The Wild Party was a musical, and therefore there was a full orchestra. It did a good job. They had a lot of music, sometimes being played pretty quickly.
There were a few spots where it seemed the orchestra was just like one beat off. So the person on stage finished their lines and then had to wait a couple beats for the music to start so they could start singing their next song. But it wasn't overly distracting. It just did jump at me a couple times.
The Wild Party is playing through Sunday, January the 27th, Friday and Saturday at 8, and a Sunday matinee on the 20th and 27th at 2:30 at the Gunston Arts Center in Arlington, Virginia. This is a show for mature audiences only. The show is about 2 hours long with no intermission.
If you've seen the show, we'd like to hear your thoughts. Simply leave a comment here at showbizradio.net. I'd also like to invite you to join our free mailing list so you can stay informed with the latest happenings in D.C. area community theater.
And now, on with the show.